Okay. Good morning. My name is Daniel. Welcome to Orchard Park Secondary School, home of the FRC Team 2056. If you have any questions throughout the day, please feel free to ask me. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Edmund Kim from Team 5719, who is presenting strategies for fostering equality, diversity, and inclusivity on FIRST Team.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Ed Kim. I'm a science teacher and a biology teacher at David and Mary Thompson Collegiate in East Scarborough, in Toronto. I'm also the lead founding mentor of FIRST Robotics Team, Competition Team 5719, also known as the Tim Titans. And last year was our most successful year, and we always hope to strive to do a little bit better. Thank you for the opportunity to be here as part of the OP conference to share some of my experiences about how to best foster EDI on the FIRST Team. I thought that we can start off by a big land acknowledgement. So if you're able, if you can kindly stand, and we'll do a land acknowledgement, please. At FIRST Robotics Canada, we acknowledge the elders and youth, past, present, and emerging, of all the land on which we work and live. We honor the ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. We acknowledge this land out of respect for the Indigenous nations who have cared for Turtle Island, and also called North America. The Indigenous people have been gifted the role of caretakers of this land before the arrival of settler peoples until today. Most importantly, we remember the history of these lands and people that have been tainted by poor treatment and a lack of friendship with the First Nations who call Canada home before it was given this name. This history is something that affects everyone. We are all treaty people in Canada. We all have a shared history to reflect on and are affected by this history in different ways. Our past defines our present, but if we move forward as friends and allies, it does not define our future. We move forward in respect, reflection, and reconciliation. Thanks very much. This happens to be the land acknowledgement given at all FIRST events, whether it be the first FLL Explorer, the FLL Challenge, FTC, FRC competitions, and so it's just to acknowledge the history of the land that we are on, and the fact that we have a lot of us, especially mentors and adults, have privilege, and we just want to make the space open and inclusive to everyone who participates. Just want to share with you really good resources that the presentation is based on. If you haven't already checked at our firstroboticscanada.org and at firstinspires.org, equity, diversity, and inclusivity is a focus that is being promoted to ensure that all teams are aware of, to provide equal opportunities for all the members. And so for students and mentors and adults and anyone who are brand new to the concept and would like to participate and get involved more, there are a lot of training modules that they can participate in. Each of these modules could take about half an hour to an hour. And interestingly, I think FIRST Robotics Canada offers a patch or a badge that you can wear on your uniform if you're interested to let others know that you are aware of the EDA values of FIRST Robotics Canada and FIRST Inspires. Annika Pint, the program administrator for the FLL Challenge and FLL Explore program, also has a YouTube 1 hour webinar to walk us through the training modules as well. So it's something that I feel that everyone should indulge in. I just want to highlight a couple of the key statements from the FIRST Inspires website. So this is a policy directly from FIRST headquarters. FIRST is committed to fostering and cultivating and creating a culture of equity, diversity, and inclusion. We acknowledge that people on our teams come from a variety of backgrounds, and these backgrounds and these differences include race, ethnicity, national origin, sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, disability, age, religion, income, language, learning difference, and other characteristics. So our students just come from a wide range of backgrounds. All the programs from FLL Explorer to the FRC, all the programs from kindergarten to grade 12, want to ensure that mentors and students are aware of a space where learning and teaching is free and that everyone can be respected as individuals. I've noticed here a statement that all people should have the opportunity to become science technology leaders. So sometimes we can identify leaders on the team, but the first mission is to ensure that all individuals, no matter how new or experienced they are, have an opportunity to pursue a career in science and technology and technology. This is directly from FIRST Canada's website. FIRST Canada wants to prepare young people for the world of tomorrow. FIRST Canada wants to provide life-changing robotics programs to build a better world. And the vision of FIRST Canada is to transform the country and establish a culture where STEM is celebrated and young people dream to become leaders in STEM. Now, for a lot of the young people here, can you tell us what STEM stands for?
I'm pretty sure science, technology, English, and math.
It's very good. Yeah. You got the science and technology and the math, and definitely English is involved in communicating all that. Can someone help us out with the E? E stands for engineer as well, right? So some people also use the acronym STEAM, where the A stands for arts. Whether we're teaching or learning STEM, some of you have also heard of the 4 C's involved: collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. So these are skills that we try to foster in a STEM program. Obviously, in a robotics program, creativity and critical thinking helps build a fantastical robot that competes well. But the other 2 C's involve communication and collaboration, which directly deals with people. So often we think of STEM as being very quantitative, but we also need to understand that to foster leaders need to be able to communicate and share their experiences so that all of us can celebrate. Our teams are generally considered communities. They're just made out of individuals with a range of ages, abilities, religions, cultures, sexual orientation. All individuals, regardless of their background, have basic human rights. These human rights are established by the United Nations. So we sometimes don't think about this often, but everyone in the class has the right to form an opinion, to acknowledge it, to have self-dignity in sharing that opinion, to be able to learn, to be able to work. The ability to be independent. It's often said that we want to create or promote equality and equity. Sometimes the 2 words are interchanged. What does it mean to promote equality? If you look at this picture right here, can you see how all individuals have an opportunity to ride a bicycle? So if there are 10 people in the room, all 10 people have an opportunity to ride a bicycle. We'll provide 10 bicycles. I like to think in the context of FRC that every child in Ontario has an opportunity to participate on a team to build a robot. And maybe that's the goal of FIRST. How students reach that goal is dependent on different backgrounds and circumstances, because all teams are different and all people within the team are very different. Can you think of some examples of how some individuals or team might need some assistance to reach that goal? Not all teams are equal. Can you think of some examples of forms of assistance that individuals or teams may need to be able to field a robot? Okay, but maybe the lack of mentorship, right? So the interest is there, but maybe some teams have more mentorship, some teams have fewer experience. Okay, very good.
Finances?
Absolutely, the finances. They gave us a little bit of relief, but it's still $7,900 to participate in 2 district events. So some teams have those resources, because some teams have a registration fee, for example. Some resources have students whose parents can come up with money like that, but there are some students who can't afford a t-shirt, for instance. And I know that because I actually speak from that team. My team has students whose parents are below the poverty line, so just getting them to pay for a t-shirt is hard. But they're very enthusiastic and they want to participate in this fantastical program. So students like mine and students elsewhere might just need a bit of assistance to reach that goal. So if you look at this diagram here, everyone is riding a bicycle, but can you see some examples of different size bicycles, for instance, or different ways to make the bicycle in motion? So that's the difference between equity and equality. Any questions about that? Have you seen this analogy before? Yeah. As we know, the FRC team is the FRC FTC FIRST is a fantastical program because we want to simulate the real world and the real world experiences. So a lot of our students get excited about pursuing a career in STEM. With that said, to be successful in a career in STEM, you just want to make sure that everyone feels valued and everyone contributes equally and successfully, and everyone's opinion matters. And so to do that, we have to acknowledge the different backgrounds and different sources of all the members of the team. When we try to include people, I like to think that we include people not just to join the team, but to help them to formulate the decisions, to help them to reach the goals. So if the team has a couple of key goals and make sure that everyone contributes towards reaching that goal. It's not a decision made by one or two people. We just want everyone to feel that they're involved in constructing the goals of the team. Because everyone comes from a different background, and teaching and learning are the crux of a FIRST program, especially during the build season. Sometimes it's very, very important to understand where the person is coming from, the person who is teaching or the person who is learning. So especially if the person that you're trying to communicate is very, very different, clearly empathy is a skill that is very, very valuable. When we talk about empathy, we can be very, very calm and just be present and just listen, especially when someone is very, very excited about the situation that they weren't comfortable with. You just want to listen. And then you also want to put yourself in their shoes because their experience is different from your experience, perhaps, right? So you just have to be more understanding of why they think this way and why they feel this way. So I have a little diagram here that you can always use some reminders. Listen attentively, feel free to talk openly, and hold back any judgments. Hold back any judgments because everyone's feeling and experiences are valid. I just want to introduce a couple of more terms because this to promote equity, diversity, and inclusivity, a lot of the concepts are different from each other, and so there are terms to help identify different strategies to help promote equity, diversity, inclusivity. With that said, there are some barriers that exist on all teams. They exist on the teams because they exist in the workplace as well, especially when there's a lot of diversity. Sometimes, especially when you want to get a goal done quickly, sometimes people think they have the right idea, and sometimes you see examples of microaggression. How many of you have heard of the term microaggression? Can you think of an example of microaggression, not just maybe from you or from anyone else, not just on the FRC team, but just in life?
Not really. I don't think they're talking about exactly what you mean.
Maybe we're forming groups and someone looks a little different, and so we're just going to say, you know what, we're not going to talk to that person, right? Or we're just going to ignore them, right? Or we're not going to include them. Right? It could be active name calling. Right? It could be very, very subtle. As you know, people have different pronouns, and yet sometimes people say, you know, that pronoun doesn't exist. Right? So we just kind of exclude their experience and their identity. So that's a very subtle jab. It's called a microaggression. Unconscious bias is a socialized assumption made without thinking. If I see a young boy walking with an old man, I'm just going to assume that the old man is a grandfather. But that's not always the case. A lot of people think I teach physics. Maybe it's because I'm an Asian who's in the education profession. I'm actually a biology teacher. And I identify that because otherwise people have assumed that I teach math or teach physics, for instance. Is there an unconscious bias towards females in STEM? Can't really. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Based on an unconscious bias, some type of stereotype threat will emerge. Your key is reminding people of the negative stereotype, for instance. So in the context of FRC, and I don't want to get anyone angry, but a social stereotype threat would be robotic students know everything, right? Because they don't like to make mistakes or whatnot. So that's just an example of a stereotype, for instance. And we could think of other cultures and I have a lot of colleagues who teach phys ed, but what's the stereotype threat that might come along with a person who is a great athlete, professional athlete, amateur athlete?
Sometimes some people think that they might not be very smart.
Yeah, they're great athletically, but may not perform well on academics. Right? And that's just a stereotype. That's clearly untrue, but that's called a stereotype threat. It's a cue that has us perceive individuals in a particular scenario. As we know, we want diversity because to create a goal that meets everyone's needs, we need everyone's input. And when we start to make people feel uncomfortable, make people uneasy, we don't work to their full potential. And when they don't work to their full potential, especially in the workplace, they might just leave, right, or change jobs. And what happens? The workplace suffers, right? The task suffers. So, can everyone say that everyone has seen an example of a stereotype threat or an unconscious bias, right, perhaps on their team? Right? And of course, we want to maximize our success on the team, so we try to find ways to reduce all these barriers. So this is a term that exists in the workplace, and it's an ally. An ally is someone who's not a member of the underrepresented group. I like to call undervalued group, because these different groups exist, but perhaps we don't seek their input so much. We're not part of that group, but we just want to support them. A sponsor is a type of ally that will support an undervalued person. An example would be when you're in a group, when you're in a meeting. I learned this from Fatima, and I think it was a great idea. Right? So giving a shout out. Not owning that idea as my own because I'm the speaker, but acknowledging that someone else, perhaps someone was quiet, came up with the idea, and you just kind of put them in the spotlight. So you just want to highlight that idea. So I'm an ally to her. A champion is an ally that would support an undervalued person more publicly, for instance. Celebrate the accomplishments of these individuals. If someone fixed a motor or rewired a sensor and got it working, just don't say that it works, but identify the person and their time and all the work that they put in, right? To acknowledge the fact that this person helped the team to improve. So just doing something like that would make you a champion on the team, especially to that individual. If someone doesn't step up for a leadership role or leadership or sub-team, but you feel that they have potential and they're too quiet or shy to step up, maybe encourage them or talk to someone, a leader, and suggest that maybe them talk to that person, encourage them to step up and try something new. So that would be an example of a champion. How many of you have heard of the term the likability penalty? I'm just going to use the example of females. Right? As we grow up, sometimes people do things just because they want to be liked. Right? They might like math, but if they demonstrate their ability to do math, maybe they'll get called names or they'll be put into a certain category and they just don't want that feeling. So they'll just shut it down, as an example, or pursue another avenue. And then they might pursue math later, like physics in high school, and they do really, really well. So when the female student puts answers on the board or really, really shares a lot of answers in her group, if it was a male student, sometimes the students would call the male a leader, but the female often would be called bossy. Right? And that's because years before, she never really demonstrated her leadership because she always kept it aside. Right? She kept it low because she didn't want that perception, right, of being good at math. Right? She just wanted to go with the flow and just fit into societal norms. So that's what we call the likability penalty, acting a certain way. So we just want to challenge that. When you hear a woman being called bossy, ask for the specific example. Like, what did she do that made you call her bossy? And if she was someone else, would you still call her bossy? Right? So you can just be a champion and call that out, right? Just to make people think about your words. A lot of students don't step up because they're not very confident, right? But sometimes I think all of us have had a champion that just encouraged us to just do it, right? You're great at it. You're going to share. A lot of people will learn from you. How many of you have heard the term "fake it till you make it"? Right? Fake it till you make it. And a lot of people that enter leadership positions weren't so confident early, but they faked it till they made it. Right? Of course, they received a lot of help, but it's just being a champion to encourage them to take that first step forward. How many of you have heard of the expression, we don't build robots, robots build people, right? So robotics, just like academics, math, and science, is a skill that improves over time. So sometimes we just focus on the final product, right? We either ace it or we don't. If I'm not going to ace it, I'm not going to participate. If I don't get a 95, this is not for me. But we want to encourage everyone to believe that it's a process that matters. Right? It's the steps that you learn along the way. With every failure, there's a success, and that just builds your confidence to be strong. One of the reasons, and this is based on data, one of the reasons why a lot of females don't maybe receive that leadership position, especially in industry or in business, is because when you look at two applications, the applications and the reference letters, the reference letter, say both the male and the female are qualified equally, but the reference letter from a male referee would write a lot of descriptions and specifics, right, and examples, whereas the reference, I'm going to backtrack because when a reference writes information about the female applicant, sometimes the information is very, very vague, right? Like, she did a good job, right? Whereas for a male applicant, the referee would write something more specific, more detailed, to let the referee know, oh, this person could be qualified. And because the description on the female's application is very, very vague, as in she did a good job, when she does get the role, sometimes the boss will not believe that she can do the job, and that she will have to demonstrate maybe 2, 3, 4 times more effort than the male counterparts because the boss just didn't believe it. So as a champion, you would equally give all people that are applying for a job a lot of descriptive, detailed feedback, right? Just rely on the data and give everyone a good opportunity to be successful in the role that they're pursuing. Karthik always mentioned this, so I always, it resonates with me. Mentorship is hard to come by sometimes, but if you have a mentor, you're all young people and we're mentors ourselves. So if you have a person with maybe a year or two more experience than you do, someone 5, 10 years more experience than you do, and then someone 20 years more experience than you do, you have different mentors that can share experiences at different levels. So you have a particular pathway, and so they made the mistakes and they just don't want you to repeat those mistakes. So it's always good to have a mentor, and when we have mentors, we're very, very thankful. So feel free to reach down and pull up that student or that person who wants to learn and become a mentor yourself. It doesn't require your whole time, but just your availability to listen and to acknowledge what their goals are is a big deal. Statistically, girls that received negative stereotypes at a young age did poorly in math later. I was at Walmart years ago, and there were shirts that marketed to girls, and the shirt would say, "I hate algebra." Right? And the girls would buy that and just wear it, right? I guess just to be liked, maybe, or it's just an expectation. I'm not too sure. But that would be an example of a negative stereotype that would just discourage girls from pursuing something that perhaps they can exceed that. Any questions so far? So there were just a lot of terms, right, given to different allies. An amplifier would just be someone who acknowledges a good idea by naming the person offering it. And some social media, all of our teams have a social media account. When we're thinking about something to post, especially when we're not building a robot, maybe there's someone on the team that did something good that supported the team and made the team better. So you can give a shout out to that person. That would be an example of an amplifier. An upstander is someone who would actually stand up to bullying as an example, or something that they see as wrong. Right? So often we just kind of stand by, but if you're a champion and you want to stand up and call it out, that person would appreciate it. If you see someone being bullied or harassed, just step in and say, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" Right? So that the bully would then start to realize what their actions are, and then you can just talk to the person being bullied later and ask if everything's okay and did you want me to interject and show some empathy that way. A confidant is just someone that provides a safe space, right? So they're not very judgmental and they just want to listen and acknowledge that person's past experiences. And a scholar is someone who does a little bit of personal research to understand where that person is coming from. Just to put ourselves in the shoes of someone who might need to overcome some barriers, I have some activities. So first of all, thanks very much for your attention. I do have some activities that I would like us to participate in. Everyone received a dot, I believe. Okay. Can I ask you to put that dot on your cheek, just underneath your eye? Okay. And the only two rules that I'm going to offer for the next 5 minutes is to organize yourselves and no talking. So no one's allowed to talk, but you're allowed to mime if you want, and just organize yourselves. Is everyone good? Yeah, okay, all right. How did you organize yourselves? Anyone want to share that? How did you organize yourselves?
I just chose the color that was under my
It is, yeah, you didn't, oh, yeah, it is. How did you guys generally know where to go?
Just have to stand up, you know, find apartments, so it's basically not safe as a ship.
Yeah, so you looked around,
Yeah.
right, and used some gestures, right? It's a small group, I acknowledge, but did anyone use their arms and just kind of do more motion, right? Just to encourage people to go where they need to go. Were there some leaders? Did you guys notice any leaders when you're trying to organize yourselves? Were there people that were followers? Sure, there were leaders and followers. Yep, you could have a seat. All right, so thanks very much. One person was different from everyone else. Who was that person? Yeah, you're the person with the green sticker. Yeah. So you had a green sticker which was a different color, and the sticker was very, very big. Did everyone notice the person with the green sticker? That was very, very big. Yeah. I know there was no talking, but did the thought come to your mind to maybe try to include this person in the group? Or we just kind of let her stand there? Let her stand.
No one had it, so I just took it.
So you just stayed back. Yeah. Okay. For those that form groups, yes.
I was thinking, what after we had formed the groups, maybe we should go to 27 because we're both on the 20, 56.
That's a good point, right? So there's some commonality outside of the stickers, right? And if we had some time, maybe you would have encouraged her to join the group. So the take-home message is this, that within an FRC team or any other team, groupthink is a concept that exists. Even if you're a leader on an FRC team, perhaps you have the feeling of being left out in this activity. Right? So that way you have a sense of what people could feel like. So be proactive and just be a good friend, right? And be inclusive. Does everyone know everyone's name on the team, on your teams?
Well, we just started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some teams are big, right? My team, we recruited about 20 people. But just as a teacher, I really do my best to learn everyone's name, right? And not just that, but make sure I talk to everyone when they come, right? So that I want to acknowledge that they made their time and efforts to meet some new friends, right? And so my role is to maybe help to facilitate. The next and last activity, to just help us reflect on some barriers, is I have 6 signs around the room. One says person with a disability, woman from Iran, basketball player, break dancer. I think that was a popular sport this summer. Refugee and ex-high security prisoner. If you could go far away, it would be a 15-hour flight, right? And there's a seat next to you, and there has to be someone sitting next to you. Which of these individuals would you want to have seated next to you for 15 hours of flight? So how about if I ask that you just look at the signs and just go to that side. I'm hoping that people will get into groups, so there can be some discussion going on. Okay, wonderful. So we have a woman from Iran and breakdancer. Okay, wonderful. Can I ask you guys to share with each other as why do you want to sit next to that person? Or you can just talk amongst your groups to start off with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I would say I know my people. So yeah. They're really interesting people. So why not? I would do it. And that's the main reason. And the other one is that most all of them
Other than my reason is
We even
I-
talk to others, like kind of the situations that we have had,
and then probably
the things that you have been through, it was really hard, not even for, not only for women, for all of the people. And the things that changed was like the governance everything in the country, like it was one of the reasons that it changed. That the governments should not even care. So I would like to be there and like seeking someone to know more things, more about them.
I want to share this person.
So I don't have that experience with the same experience, so I won't hear that for life. Different, it is goals and expectations are, I'm assuming, very different and it's just here.
Yeah, so I'm curious, but I want to also. Yeah, so, okay, thanks very much. Yeah, you can have a seat. I asked this question first when I implemented this, and the question that I was going to ask, but I just saved it, was who do you not want to sit next to over 15 hours? So we have a person with a disability, a woman from Iran, a basketball player, a break dancer, a refugee, a high security prisoner. Does anybody here want to participate in this part? Or you don't have to. See, for 15 hours, you have no choice but to sit next to this person. So, does anybody want to share?
Well,
So you don't want to sit next to a basketball player.
I don't want to sit next to a basketball player, mostly because, well, it depends which basketball player, but if we're going for a basketball player that's a little bit more like muscular and bulky, I would want a little bit more room on my play, so I just prefer not to sit beside them. And then and just to touch on, I didn't choose the high security prisoner, because I would assume if they were in a high security prison, they would probably, and the bio, I feel like we based on something like good behavior or something, so like, depends on the person.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
It depends if I know if the person is a high security prisoner, because I really wouldn't know, because I could be anything, right? But if I was conscious and I knew it, I'd be slightly more scared, but like compared to everyone else's background.
Right. Okay. So whether you shared or not, perhaps looking at some of these individuals that can bring up an experience, right, or some knowledge that you may have had that could help shape your judgment. What I'm just going to do right now is I'm just going to reveal. So the person with a disability happens to look like this. And can you identify who he is?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, I mean, do we have to say it?
Yep, do you know who it is?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, it's Mark Zuckerberg. And exactly. So Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook. He has Asperger's syndrome, right? And he has a hard time socializing with people. Right? So he does have a disability diagnosed, right? But maybe we would have missed out on an opportunity to talk to that person, right? For sure. This person wasn't wearing her uniform, but she was an astronaut. Actually, the first female Iranian astronaut many, many years ago. Anushka Ansari, I think she visited Toronto a few times for a space conference too. Right? So we could have a lot of us pursuing a career in STEM could have missed out on an opportunity to chat a little bit. This basketball player, Kendra Ohama, she plays rear tail basketball, but she was an Olympic gold medalist as well. So she has a lot of good experience, especially in success, in every success. So this is a Toronto break dancer, right? He's a B-boy break dancer. His nickname is Lazy Legs. He wanted to audition for a program, So You Think You Can Dance. Do you guys recall that TV show? So You Think You Can Dance? And a lot of the people that produced that show didn't want him to participate, but they let him just out of sympathy, right? Not because of his ability, but just out of sympathy, right? Which I'm sure he wants to compete because of his ability as well. This refugee, I hope everyone recognizes, Albert Einstein. And he's an old white male. He was Jewish fleeing the Nazis in World War II. So he was a refugee. And we hear about refugees coming to North America because of a lot of the climate refugees, for instance. But sometimes we don't know about their background and what they can contribute. And then a lot of us may not realize that Nelson Mandela was a high-risk security prisoner. But he became a leader of apartheid and a president of South Africa. So you've all heard of the expression, you can't judge a book by its cover, right, for sure. And sometimes we have preconceived notions just based on our experiences and our told stories, but everyone has a story that they can share, that they can contribute to the larger group. How are stereotypes perpetuated? What's one way to perpetuate a stereotype? For instance, when you think of a scientist, what nationality is a scientist?
No, it can be any national.
There could be any nationality. Yeah, that's right. They did this study. They asked a bunch of middle school junior kids to draw a scientist, and they all drew a white male with a lab coat with crazy hair, mixing chemicals. And maybe because they watched Bill Nye, or maybe that's the characters that they see on TV. Interestingly, there's a school by the Science Center that's in a low-income area, and a lot of these kindergarten girls boys and girls would visit the Science Center a couple of times a year. And when they were asked to draw a scientist, 75% of them actually drew a colored female. And this was very unexpected because they were expecting a white male. And the reason why they drew the colored female is because whenever they visited the Science Center, it was the speaker or the teacher that was colored and female. Right? So this was their understanding of science and the leader in science. So I thought that was just a very interesting observation. Just in conclusion, everyone, and these are my notes for self-reflection, so perhaps you might share as well. Strive for intellectual humility. You can always learn, right? We don't know everything. You can always learn. There's a difference between opinion, a story that you heard from someone, and informed knowledge and data. Right? So make sure you separate the three. Whenever I have a defensive reaction, I feel guilty, I feel bad, just try to reflect on that, right? And see why I felt that way and how I could better understand different points of view. I'm a teacher, so I'm a role model adult, right? So just be aware of my privilege, right? And the ability to help influence other people. And a lot of you in leadership positions are in that position as well. Right? So you have a lot of people that are looking up to you, want opportunities. I know we want a winning robot, but a lot of these students want to participate in the STEM program. Just this week, I had a girl, grade 9. She came from Nigeria, Africa, and she said she wants to join the robotics team. And I asked her, do you have any coding or STEM experience? And she goes, I have absolutely none. Right? And I asked her, I gave her some Lego robots, and I gave her the program to follow to build a robot. She took her mouse and pointed at the screen because she didn't even know how to use a mouse, right? And so we could have just said, you know what, we're looking for other people on the team. But it's also a huge opportunity for someone who literally is at one end of the spectrum in STEM, maybe to foster encouragement and open some eyes, and maybe she can pursue a career in STEM from that point of view. So it's an opportunity as opposed to not an opportunity for the team. If you feel that you're comfortable, ask yourself, how can I take this a bit deeper, right? Just to expand on your knowledge base, right? So you can be more services. That brings us to the end of my presentation. I really appreciate your time and consideration to visit. And I hope that some of my information can help inform you to encourage more inclusive, diverse, and equitable team. So thanks very much. We finished on time too.
Now we will.
Oh, you can take off your sticker too if you haven't already done
Now
so.
we will just take a quick 10-minute break until we start.